Laura Zemek.
And I'm Lisa Norton.
And we're Material Girlfriends. So today we have a tutorial on this darling little Christmas tree. It's a pleated Christmas tree, and you'll find it in the I Love Us year-round December month.
So you'll be working from pages 35, 36, and 37 for this cute little block.
All right, let's go to the cutting table.
The I Love Us in December quilt block is 3 pages. It's constructed in a few pieces. You've got some half square triangles, you've got a little applique for your lights, and then we have this fun pleated Christmas tree. So what we want to focus on is the pleated Christmas tree because it's just a little bit confusing for some.
And we have other demo videos for applique and for half square triangles. So we're going to just jump to the fun part.
So your cutting instructions are all on the first page. And then your paper piece instructions are on the second page. And the third page is your paper piecing template for your Christmas tree. So what I like to do is I make a copy of my Christmas tree on Carol Doak's paper. And then on the back side of that newsprint paper is when I will draw out the lines. And this is just sloppy. If you're getting out a ruler, you're making it far too fussy. It needs to just be sloppy lines because we're just using these lines on this side to help us position our fabric. We're not sewing on this side. We actually sew on the printed side. So when you're cutting out your fabric, you're going to have a tree trunk. I think the pattern calls out black, but we're using brown today. You're going to have your pieces on each side of your tree trunk, which are just squares. You have one big rectangle you're going to cut, and then once on the diagonal, and that gives you your 2 pieces on the left and right sides of your tree. And then your pleated tree is 2.5 by 6.5 inch rectangles, and then you're going to press those with the wrong side on the inside of it. Now I'm using batik, and it's a lovely batik. You can't tell which is the right or the wrong side, but if you're using a different fabric, just be sure the wrong side of your fabric is pressed to the inside, just as if you were making binding. We're using 2 fabrics, one to represent our Christmas lights. I thought that was a cool pick. And then the other is for our Christmas tree. And then you need a rectangle of lining for behind your pleated tree, because you'll be able to stick your hand behind your pleats, and if you didn't have a little bit of lining, you'll be sticking your hand into some batting. So if you have a white, like a solid white that you're using on each side, check to make sure that you're not seeing your lining. Now, see, we have a pretty nice thick batik, and you're not going to see my lining behind my white fabric. So that's just something to be careful of. Any other ideas, Laura, that we want to give them?
No, let's get to sewing.
All right, I'm ready to sew. So this is how I begin. I like to lay my pieces out on my copy paper. So I've got it laid out so I know I have all my pieces ready. And then I'm just going to plop my pieces down. These will be every other, but then I know I've got all my fabrics ready, so I don't get halfway going and realize I've got the wrong size or the wrong piece. Okay, that's going to be a pretty tree. So first things I'm going to do is I am going to position my number 1 piece on the back side, the hand-drawn side, and I'm going to position it. I'm just going to sort of center it right there. And I'm going to stick a pin in it. Next, I'm going to take my number 2 piece, and this is supposed to be right side up. This will be right side down, but I'm going to first position it right side up and go, yep, that's going to be fine. Then I'm going to go right sides together, and see how you need to be sure that your fabric is going to cover well beyond your line pieces.
So you're positioning it on your drawn side.
Yeah, and my trunk's a little crooked. Yeah, I'm gonna just repin my trunk real quick. No, I still can't get it right. Goodness sakes. There. Okay. Positioning this. I like to audition. That's going to work out just great. And so now I'm ready to sew. I flip it over and I'm going to sew on the line between 1 and 2. Make sure my piece didn't slide as I moved it. Hope it's good. I like using an open toe foot because we're just going to sew right on the line this time. And my stitch length, I like to go down to a 1.8. So you're going to find that line. Well, if I can get it in the right one, goodness. Why didn't my needle move? For goodness sakes, it's not in the right one. There we go. Okay, now we're ready. So I've got my needle right on that line, and I'm just going to sew from one end to the other. And I like doing just a back stitch when I do paper piecing. I'm going to remove my pin, and then if I had my ironing board really close, I would just press it real quickly. But for time's sake, I'm just going to do a quick fingernail press. That covers my entire area, so I'm ready to add my next piece. I'm going to position it on the other side. I'm going to flip it over. Of course, these are right sides together. When you're using a nice batik, it makes for less seam ripping because both sides are the right side, right? I can change it in editing, but we'll want to do gangster style. Okay, I've got my trunk and my left and right sides ready. So now we're ready to do the pleats. So I'm going to position my first piece, and I want to make sure that I'm edge to edge, 6.5 inches. And I'm just going to align it to where line number 4, you know, the line between this and line number 4 is. So I'm going to flip it over, but instead of sewing on the line this time, we're going to sew on the dotted line. So your solid line is your positioning on this time. Okay, we've got that first pleat sewn. So now we're going to get our next one. And we're going to position it, making sure we're edge to edge.
Which side's the fold on, Lisa? So is the fold at the bottom?
Oh, the fold is on the bottom. Thanks. Good question, Laura. The raw edge is lining up on those lines. So I'm going to put it 6 inches to 6 inches here on the edge. And now I can flip it over. Do I have that quite right? Yeah, that looks good. And we're going to, again, we're just going to sew right on the dotted line this time. Do a little back stitch. And a little back stitch. And there's our first pleat. And now we're going to do the next one. Same thing. We're going to position it on line 6, making sure our edge is 6.5 inches.
And the folded part is on the bottom.
And fold is on the bottom.
The raw edges are on the top.
At the top.
Okay.
And we're going to sew on the dotted line. And then we're going to keep building our tree this way. Okay, I've got all of my pleats done.
That does not look like a Christmas tree yet.
It's a boxy Christmas tree. So now we got to do some trimming.
Okay, so here's my boxy Christmas tree, but it's looking so cute. So I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to find the line between the tree and number 15. I'm going to lay a cardboard or cardstock right on that line, and I'm going to fold over my number 15. Actually, I have some oversewn issues here. There. So then I'm going to lay my add a quarter ruler to the top of this, and I'm going to trim it.
It's like, hey, I was standing here holding the camera. Just wiggled everything.
So now we've got our edge pre-cut.
Nice.
And then I'm going to pre-cut this edge. So I might as well pre-cut it while I'm here, right?
Absolutely.
Goodness. The corner is going to be a little tough. I'm wondering if I should go it before trimming this. I'm going to make it too crooked. So I think I need to just go ahead and sew 15 on
Do it the way
first.
it's supposed to.
Yeah, not pre-cut it. So our piece goes on like this, right sides together. I lay it to make sure that it's going to work. That's going to cover, might bring it up just a little bit more. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to stick a pin in it and then we'll sew that edge. I just got that sewn on. Just as a tip, start at this end and sew down, just so that if you're sewing this direction, you're not fighting those pleats, that you keep it nice and flat. So I push that over and that looks really good. It's covering all my lines, and so now I'm ready to trim my tree on this side. Flip it over. Fold my paper over. I know I kind of had to mishmash my corner here. It's a bit of a mess, but it'll work out. It's because I overstitch. Best tip is always to stand while cutting.
And put your glasses on so you can see what you're cutting. Keep your fingers out of the way and use a sharp blade.
No kidding. There we go. Remove those extra tree pieces. Oh, look what a cute tree this is already.
Now it looks like a cute tree.
So we're going to get our last piece. We'll position it right sides together. I like to audition to make sure it's going to cover. So I'm going to bring it up just a little bit more. That should be just fine. I'm going to use one of these pins
just to hold. I'm going to just stick it over here instead. And now I'm going to sew that down. That looks great. We've got all our outside edge covered, so I'm going to give it a good press before I am going to trim it on this outside line. Yay! I gave it a good pressing, and so now I'm ready to trim my tree. So I like using a square when I trim out my paper piecing.
Trim your tree. You're
So the reason I do is it and make sure I have nice good right angles, and then I can verify that my copies were actually accurate. So we're going to want this to be 6.5 inches wide by 10.5 inches long. And you'd be surprised at how often our copies get stretched by the copy machine, because this one looks slightly shy of 10.5 inches to me. I'm just going to rotate that. And make sure I have 6.5 by 10.5. Yeah, my copies were just slightly on the small side.
Just a smidge.
Just a smidge, which is typical for copy machines to...
Nice flat hold instead of a spider hold when you're cutting. Keeps things from wiggling around.
Okay, let's see how I did. Oh, it's so pretty.
Oh, it is. That's cute as can be.
So we're going to rip off our paper. I like to just tear to the dotted line. The reason I like to do it this way is if I tore it from this side, it's going to weaken those stitches there. So let's not do that.
This messy Marvin. Why am I always cleaning up after you?
All her life, she's done nothing but clean up after me. Now the tricky part will be doing all of these little seams, so this might take a little minute.
Fortunately, this is video land, so we can fast forward or put it on stop, one or the other.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
I'll fast forward.
Awesome.
I know we should try that sometime.
Find a new product.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So you'll see your pleats are all a little loosey-goosey, and if you had sewn this into your quilt, you'd be able to stick your fingers right into your batting. So that's why it's important.
Oh, you know, you can always hide candy canes or something inside
That would
there.
be fun. Cute little pocket.
Probably not a good idea, though.
Yeah, especially if it gets washed with all that in there. So you're going to put right side up to the wrong side of your tree, and then you'll do a little 1/4 inch seam creating a pocket.
Oh, so now when you put your candy canes in, you
Or
can
hide
get them
your
back
little
out.
tree.
It won't get fluffy batting on
At
it.
least if you're doing an edge-to-edge quilting or a meander quilting, where it's going to be open will still all be lined.
All right.
So that's it for this little tree. We're just going to do, I like to do slightly less of a 1/4 inch since we're going to still piece this into our block. That way my 1/4 inch seam won't show, but I'll just do a nice tight little snug 1/4 inch seam, and then our tree unit is finished.
Well, let's stitch that down, and we'll make our half square triangles in our light, and then we'll have our block finished. Yay! Ho, ho, ho.
Merry Christmas.